So
Okay.
yeah, we're just going to go through our ERP, and I'm open to all questions. Go ahead and do that. I'm not going to say that this is the be all to end all. Um, this is just kind of, this is a good starting point for your community, your facilities ERP. Um, Having a good plan in place is important because you don't want to be sending everyone into a big ammonia cloud. You don't want to be losing staff. You don't want to be having injuries. Everyone wants to go home at the end of the day, obviously. So go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So we got obviously good stuff here. Now, this is right at the beginning, but it's not really the beginning stuff, but we should have a revision history. Any document that you're doing like this, SOPs, that sort of information, it doesn't have to be right on the document, but you should have revision history and including names and everything that's done. And you should have it all documented along the way. And then a revision type description of what it was. You could put down the bullet point, what numbers, and or you could put down the exact information, but you need to have that revision history as you go along. Okay, so it goes through revision procedures, and this basically talks about how it's authorized, notice of change, how kind of an overview of the overall document itself, and how that is handled and who is the key holder. So who handles the actual revisions? Now, there's going to be lots of people involved in revisions, whether it's frontline staff or management or safety departments, but someone has to be the key holder so that they distribute the documents from there. It's because it can't there can't be multiple documents floating around. You have to be going by one solid document, especially when you get revisions on the go. So that's where it is, what the distribution and control is just showing that people are going to have to approve it along the way, but then it's going to be distributed by one person, and then they will make sure that all other copies are taken out of circulation. Of course, got a table of contents. It's always good to have, right? So you can find things really quickly. We're not going to go through that though, because we're going to look at the meat and potatoes of this. So emergency contact list. Now, this is something that we had further back in the document, but it was felt that we needed for our communications department to have this from the communications department to put this right up front so that it's right visible first thing. Now, this is kind of a page that you'd want to have. Just take it right out of this book, laminate it, and put it in maybe staff rooms in front of the door, that sort of information, so that when somebody says, well, have you called Simco yet? Have you called your service provider? Oh, we need to get poison control on the line. There's someone's ingested glycol or something like that, that you can find these numbers right away. Another key number is ABSA. Pretty much any unsafe, like it says, unsafe conditions, accidents, fires, leaks, or failure piping pressure vessels. You're going to have to call them right away that it's happened. We have the school division on here because we have two schools next to us. So if there's ammonia leaving the building, we're going to have to get them on the phone to notify them that they're going to have to either shelter in place or what they're going to have to do. More than likely, a shelter or muster area is required. Got emergency contact. So like all of our operators' numbers, management number, my number, after hours emergency, safe department reception, that sort of stuff. If I'm going too fast for anyone, go ahead and put your hand up, or comment, or just tell me to stop if you have any questions. Okay. I highly recommend that when you come up with your plan, you come up with a very easy to read flow chart. This is something that can be put right in the like the vestibule at the pre-entry room, so that you have the information available to the person that's going and checking the detection system. so that they're seeing, okay, 2 parts per million, 100 parts per million, 25 parts per million. Where are we at? What do we have to do? And what can we do? Right. So it breaks it down pretty much step by step, everything that you should be doing. It's basically just making it so it's easy to read format. This is the meat and potatoes here of what the frontline person needs to know, right? So we have three different levels. We have a detection level, low level, high level. So basically detection level is that, you can get 1 part per million, 2 parts per million on your detection system just by painting, by your exhaust system bringing in diesel fumes into the ammonia room. So you can't, you can say zero and lower is all you're allowed, but it's not realistic really. So you need to come up with a level that is realistic as far as saying what you're allowed to enter into and what you're not, right? And then you need to come up with procedures, protocols around that. So that could be different for every facility, right? Like if you have 1,500 pounds or 2,000 pounds of ammonia, you might say, okay, yeah, you can't go in below 25 parts per million because the chances are that it's going to increase a lot all of a sudden is high, and it's going to go up to that 1,000 parts per million really fast, right? Like we're only sitting on 440 pounds of ammonia, which is a deadly amount, all released at once. But if it's not released all at once and it's kind of trickling in through a leak, a little release, then you don't really have to go and stop it like that. You just need to have procedures in place for monitoring, whether it's personal monitors, handheld monitor, or someone watching a detection system from outside to be able to make a call on whether you can go in, if it's rising, if it's not rising, if it's dropping, because you've got the air handling system, like not air handling, but exhaust system exhausting the ammonia from the room, and it's going down. It means it's probably not a problem as far as it's not pressurized to the point where it's going to continue to release. There's always exceptions, but you got to look at it as like, okay, well, what's it trending? What's it happening? So what do I see? Like, is it rising to this 100 parts per million mark, or is it dropping? So like you'll see here now, we're at the detection level. We're not entering the compressor room if it's 5 parts per million or more, because it's probably going from 2 to 5 to 25 very quickly. We're gonna turn on our exhaust fans. Uh, of course, you're not going to attempt to contain the release yourself. You're not going to do anything as far as putting a hand over it or I'm going to contain it with paper towel or a towel or something. So and then we're going to continue to monitor the parts per million level presented in the room. Take note of the amount is dropping or rising, right? And then we have a locked condenser compound outside, which also has our dump valve. So we would be going around through our Zamboni room is how we would get there, through our Zamboni room, and we would be getting to the condenser compound to unlock that, so that when our service provider comes, or emergency services, if that's what it comes to, then they can either deal with the condenser or they can go to the dump valve. So from there, we're making phone calls. We're doing what we have to do as far as phoning service providers, or myself, the supervisor or manager, sort of thing. Then we're going to make a call on, okay, yeah, have you called Simcoe? Okay, nope, call them next thing, or I'll call them while you keep watching, and then we'll work from there. And then if we're reading 25 parts per million and up, we're in a low level alarm. We're not entering the compressor room. We're getting the large and small exhaust fans, continue to monitor, present the ammonia level, And then we're unlocking the condenser compound and preparing for the tech to come in. We're still monitoring that level though. That's the big thing, right? We're not leaving the pre-entry room. We're not getting ammonia because the pre-entry doors are sealed, excuse me. And so we're monitoring that level to make sure that if it's rising, then we know the next step. If it's dropping, then we've probably just had a little release, little puff, whether it's hard to say where it comes from, maybe a packing nut, or maybe there's been a temperature change, a packing nut, or like a valve stem sort of thing could have just let it go. That's usually the one that's going. And then you're making a call again to the management and Simcoe. Now, high level alarm, that's obviously a much bigger concern. You're 100 parts per million and probably rising until you press the emergency stop button that's located in that pre-entry room. Now, if you don't have a pre-entry room and don't have an emergency stop button, you're not really to code. You're not a class T machine room, these are key things to have. So you got to hit that emergency stop button. That's going to depressurize, it de-energizes the main movers, right? So taking down the pressure, and from there you get those fans going, and our system is automated as far as the automation is tied into the plant room. So our makeup air units are going to shut off automatically if we're hit this 100 parts per million, if it's a high level alarm. But we got to confirm that. So this would be part of the call when you're calling the management, is the management can confirm that those makeup air units are off. Another way we can do it is just hit breakers. We have all of our breakers for makeup air units or return air units. All are marked with yellow dots. And we know that the breaker boxes are marked with the yellow dot next to them and signage, that those are the makeup air units you may have to shut off if they haven't already shut off. And calling 911, you're probably going to, at this point, like I said, you're probably 100 and rising until and even if you hit the emergency stop button, you may still rise because you've probably got a valve failure or a fitting failure, or hopefully it's not your condenser that's totally failed. So from there, you just gotta call 911 and follow their emergency response plan for shelter in place or evacuation, and then calling Simcoe on site to do that. So I'm going to stop there. Anyone have any questions about this flow chart? I still have everyone here. E-stop is still something that is recommended. We've had wavering info about building pressure on the low side if we kill everything. Is there info through this from ABSA you're aware of? Fire department ops here have been on different pages. I'm not familiar enough. Okay, well, there's a question from Teresa about the e-stop. I'm pretty sure it's still a thing. Yeah, you will build some pressure, but at least you've stopped the main compressors. That pressure is going to just back up. It's just going to back up towards the condenser.
Thank you, Adrian. I was just trying to, I guess, get some information about where that confusion came from, because we were always under the impression we would hit that e-stop as well, until last summer we had the fire department come through and asking lots of questions about this, and I couldn't give them a simple answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just the same as you're shutting off your compressors. You're in your cold brine pump, you're just shutting it down. I think if you were to, it's de-energizing the whole system, or at least it should be. And I think if you were continually bringing warm brine or glycol or whatever you have on or for your floor back to the chiller, then you're going to have the problem of building the pressure because you're going to continue the evaporation. Pretty sure that's the case. So as long as you've stopped those prime movers, then you're not going to continue that evaporation. The worst thing that can happen, I think, is that you're going to freeze up, but it's just like stopping the compressors like on a normal cycle because it's the plant's been told to shut off.
Okay, no, I just wanted to know if there was some other information out there that I could look into so that when the fire department asks this your cycle through, then I have some more info. I
For sure.
appreciate it.
And it's great that your fire department's asking questions and they're involved. It
Yeah.
totally is because like I've seen it. It's like sometimes pulling teeth and maybe sometimes they change hands and stuff like that. It can be hard to get them involved. But like on while I was thinking of it, you got pressure reliefs there that should be set. So they're going to relieve the pressure to your pressure relief system, your red lines that go
Mhm.
out the red stack out the back of the building.
Okay.
And then you've got your on the brine system, you've got your overflow tanks. So really there shouldn't be a big pressure build up there.
Okay. No, I think that makes sense to me. I was just very confused. So
Yeah. Yeah, no
thank
problem.
you.
Like you say, Daniel, it's simple. That's the point. It's a flow chart. You can just give step-by-step points, right? And phone numbers are right there of the main people you got to contact. Like you don't need to have other phone numbers as far as um stuff that we have all up in that top phone list, like the CEO's number and different emergency people. That's just have them nuts and bolts here and basically what you're going to do, right? Where do I have the question from Daniel? Where do you have the details to the dump system on in the worst case, the red box? Further down in the document, there's key components down in the document here. That's all lays that out. So, um, if I can go on, if you guys have any questions about further up, just let me know. For sure, I'll stop and go back. As you can see, we made a map of just a Google Earth print screen of key places and fire exits with our isolation zone, wind socks, dump valve, where the schools are located, where a bus pickup is located, fire hydrant, muster points. So this helps. I wouldn't say this is key, but it helps when you're trying to explain this and put down the documents, and it's really not that hard. And if you don't have windsocks, I recommend you have windsocks. We did windsocks in locations that are visible from the muster points. This muster point, you can see this windsock. It may not look like it from this picture, but or else it's like 10 feet, 20 feet, and you're seeing the windsock. And then also this is where our plant room is. You can see the condenser and you can see where the dump valve is that if I go out these emergency exits, I can see this windsock, or if I leave the Zamboni room, I can see that windsock. Now, what's important about the windsock, I'm sure that a lot of people know, but I'm going to go ahead and say it, is that if the good chance you're evacuating all of this ammonia, whether it's in the room or going out the stack, which should be out of the building, out 10 feet above any of the building threshold, right? So your roof and then 10 feet above that's where your stack should be. I think it's 10 feet, should be right around there, but good chance it's going outside. From there, ammonia is a natural product and it wants, unless it's humid, if it's humid, it's going to stay in the cloud. If not, it's going to want to disperse. Any way you look at it, you don't want to be too close to it and you don't want to be downwind of it. So if I'm in this muster point and all the wind is, as you can see, we got our compass here, it's prevailing from the northwest. is pretty much our kind of trade winds or whatever you want to call them. So they're coming this way. This muster point might not be the best option. So that's why I'm going to check my windsocks. If I know I've got 440 pounds leaving the building out the back of the building, there's a chance it's going this direction over the building, around the building. Like I said, if only if it's really moist in the air, like a rainy day, is that cloud going to stay low? If otherwise, it's going to want to disperse into the atmosphere. But this muster point may not be the best option. So we have a second option out here, which is really not that hard to get to, and it's good visibility from the emergency services and from pretty much an everyone perspective, and it's outside of our isolation zone. A question from Andrea. With our new plant with a very low ammonia charge, 60 pounds, do we have any even a potential of emergency? Very, very low potential at that point. Yeah, you probably have got a plate and frame chiller. So I love that system, how they're doing that. I think that's what the next chiller we're going to go with at lifespan. But yeah, with the low charge, like yeah, we're talking about 440 pounds, which is a low charge. We're a single pad rink. So that's we made a 300 foot isolation zone from the plant room based on 1,000 pounds. So, or no, sorry, 900 pounds. Basically, what I did is I was lucky enough to go to the oh, that's backwards. Sorry, guys. Ammonia Safety Institute Training Institute, or Ammonia Safety and Training Institute, ASTI. They had ammonia safety training at our building for fire department and everything like that. And in here, that's where I referenced, they said a nurse tank, agricultural nurse tank. Where are we? 300 meters, 1,000 feet is the isolation zone in all directions. And that's those nurse tanks are around 900 pounds. So that's what we base ours on. So talking about 60 pounds, you still probably want to have something in place, and you got to have the emergency systems as far as exhaust fans and emergency stop buttons. You still have to have that. But you're looking at less of a potential for sure. I wish I had printed it off now that I'd say this. Go to the SCS sheet. SCS sheet, look at LDL and how much parts per million you can take for that. I think it's 25 at 8 hours, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. You want to look at your own. But so 25 parts per million. I don't know if I think, if you look at the 15-minute IDL, yeah, I can't really remember what it is there on the 15-minute level, how many parts per million you can take. Um, and then talk to your provider. That's your best bet with 60 pounds. Any questions about the map at all? About windsocks? So you could see obviously a legend here. We have our evacuation maps. These are the same maps we put together for the building here at all entry, exit points, stairwells, stuff like that. So, but in this is also our shelter in place markings. So we have our whole evacuation map, shelter in place. We picked the dressing rooms just because they have one makeup air unit that's easy to shut off, that shut off automatically through the system. and it's a gathering point for people. And it's also covered our bases for shelter in place for many other situations. So we figured dressing rooms would be one place we could get all the people. It'd be crowded if we had a full building, but we could get everyone in there and we could shut the doors and we could still communicate and we'd still be fine with that. So now I'm going to talk about this as we go on here. That's the upper floor. Yeah, I'll talk about shelter in place and evacuation when we hit it here. So going through the document a bit more, we have our purpose, just it's a basic why we did this, what we're following, and the plan is outlined as so kind of just documenty sort of stuff, right? So the scope, we put our health and safety commitment. Every municipality should pretty much have a commitment written by their CAO or signed off by their CAO. The exposure risks, we talk a lot about the risk here. So we have all the people that can be exposed. Responsibilities. Now, this one is pretty key. You do want to have all of this. It lays out in black and white who has to be who is in charge of certain parts and who is in charge of the actions of when they actually happen. So there's a document responsibilities, and then there's the actual emergency responsibilities. So we have our initial responders and emergency coordinator. They're going to be your fire chief or, you know, the platoon chief. I don't know exactly what they call, but okay, sorry. This is the initial responder. We don't call them the first responder because that's often your fire department or your EMS. But first staff member to visually notice the ammonia detector is at a level above 35 parts per million. So monitor situation, notify emergency services, designate a floor warden. So because we're sheltering from two different floors, we have to then get our floor wardens to get those people from second floor or first floor to what we're doing, whether we're evacuating or whether we're and checking rooms or to the first floor to the, like if we're sheltering in place. So we're going to put everyone into our place, but we need our floor wardens to take care of that, especially if we're sheltering. We don't have a PA system that can kind of amplify over the whole building. We would have to use a bullhorn that covers the whole building for that. So now we've tested it and you can hear it in all the rooms, like the room I'm in. But it would be a sweep by those floor wardens to get everyone to where they need to be. Safest muster point, right? That's what your first responder or your first initial responder is going to take care of. And communicate with the first responders, so the fire department, and doing a staff roll call or staff and contractor roll call, because you may have contractors on site. Now, the floor warden, a lot of the same things, except you're not going to be coordinating with first responders or the fire chief. The floor warden is coordinating with the first initial responder, and they're talking to the coordinator, emergency coordinator, about the shelter in place or evacuation. Give direction to those designated zones, remain calm, how to stay safe, report any concerns, injuries, or illnesses. So, you know, there might be a situation, somebody hurts themselves on the way down the stairs. So you need to be aware of that, and you need to report those, not just don't tell anybody sort of situation. No, you're going to tell somebody and you're going to make sure that it's known by your first initial responder and your first responders. And then you're going to go around and secure the entrances, making sure they're locked. And we also have signage to put the signs as a muster in or a shelter in place is in effect, and you'll put the signs on the door. But as far as people entering the building and coming into the parking lot, that you kind of have to wait for first responders to handle any outside people that are coming to the building. Maybe they're showing up for a hockey game or whatever it is. So you need to go through there. So. And then management has their responsibilities. So just basically, if you're not on site, you got to be ready for the phone call, take appropriate action. We have a critical incident response plan in the county, and that would be something you would be, as the management, would be in charge of. Give the all clear when the facility is safe to enter. But that's of course waiting for fire department or emergency services some kind to be involved also. They have to give the all clear, and then management gives the all clear from there. And then Foothills Fire Department, your emergency services people, they're going to correspond with the our leadership, emergency coordinator, and they're going to establish an incident commander, and they would take a unified command of the scene, and all staff members, everyone will report to follow the directions of the Foothills Fire Department. So that's your basic ICS 100 sort of stuff. So you're going to have a incident commander, probably the fire chief or someone that's a high-ranking fire. And then you're going to coordinate through them once they're on site. They're going to decide whether the emergency dump valve is going to be opened. They're going to have everything document with that sort of thing, how it works. It's usually a pretty simple system as far as you smash a box, turn the valve. They're going to do scene assessment. I'm just not going through all of this stuff in the essence of time, but they're doing a lot of the coordination from there, the emergency services. They're gonna, assign the Foothills Patrol. They're gonna set up the site as far as where people are allowed to come in, where you're stopping, traffic control, that information. And this one's always the interesting one, is the visitors and patrons. They're going to follow the directions of the first responders and supporting responders. You will note that I don't really have, we don't, at least here, we're not gonna track them because they're the wild cards, and they might just hop in their cars and say, oh, well, this place is closed. We know we got ice at Okotoks, so we're gonna go down there. So, so it's, with the visitors, patrons, we'd love for the coaches to conduct a roll call and be at the muster point, but that's up to them, sort of thing. We're going to encourage it as much as we can, and they can tell us if, oh, we're missing Timmy or we're missing Susie's brother. So, and that's basically all we can expect from them. But like we don't sign them in coming into the building, and we don't sign in the people watching them coming into the building, so we can't keep track and account for them. All we can do is a sweep of the building, if we're evacuating and if we're sheltering in place, and getting people to where they need to be. And from there, you're just hoping that everyone has been accounted for. And but if you don't know that Johnny's grandma is coming to watch the Timbit game, then you can't really account for them, right? So you could just do a sweep of the building. That's the important part, is you're sweeping the building like you would with any evacuation or a muster, and shelter in place, and you're just making sure that everyone is accounted for that way. So as far as administration and implementation, the manager has all of his responsibilities. Like I said, there was the ERP, the actual emergency, and then there's a document, the administration, what is their responsibilities for that. Um, it's a lot of information, and I think on the essence of time, I'm not going to go through with it. Um, I can make this available to people that email me. I'll put my email into the chat, and then I can just email me, and I'll make this available to you as long as you promise you're going to take our logos and you're going to make your changes specific to your building, because this is specific to our building and how we run things and how many operators we have. So you need to make this specific to your building. It can't fall back on me. And I should say that first and foremost is nothing can really fall back on me. I'm just trying to give you information. So, and then same thing with that's my position, supervisor, just going through all of that. Then the operators have their responsibility. The fire department has their document. Like it's basically they're supposed to participate in training, and they're supposed to understand the hazards, controls, first aid, and then equipment, right? So this is a good question by Andrea. Does anyone ever do a fire drill or ammonia drill with the public present? We do 2 times fire drills per year with public. We are planning an ammonia drill next year. Will likely include public. I would say public, but I wouldn't want it to be a full building. If we're talking about drills, I want to quickly say you should first do a tabletop with your emergency services people, health and safety department, all your staff of the facility, or at least the staff that are going to be involved, and management. First do that. Make sure that you're all covered, that you got your bases covered, so that when you try to do a drill with some public in the building, that it's not a complete gong show, and that people aren't saying, I was over the drill and holy, I don't know what those people are doing. So that's my 2 cents on that. Just reading through the comments here. Yeah, that's really good. If you can actually do like a solid scenario with everyone involved and like as real life as you can, like a man down rescue scenario, that's really good. I know I saw Craig did one in Strathmore, and we're planning one here for sometime in the fall. And like I said, my dad was a fire chief, and he was part of emergency services management for Northern Sunrise, and he planned a drill of some kind that was involved everyone in full gear and lights and sirens and everything possible to make it as real as possible. Yeah. We have a little blurb in here about our integrity management system. It's a document that I've been working on that ABSA is requiring very shortly. They are actually rewriting their AB 538 or reviewing their AB 538, and they're going to probably start asking for facilities to have this integrity management system available. Um, in AB 538, it goes through all of this in detail and what you should have there. It's not an easy thing to document. I bet you a lot of you have something going this direction, but you do need something, actual processes and everything documented for this. And maybe that's what the next topic of my Connect session will be, but I'm still working on it. So it's a heavy document. Jolie's question, does everyone in this call defer to fire department, or does anyone work at the facility where ops remains in? If it's a big enough scenario where the fire department has to be involved, they're going to set up incident command. They're going to refer, and they're probably going to ask the operator or management, whoever is around, or the initial responder, they're going to ask them for information about the building, about roll call if everyone's been accounted for, about the situation with the plant beforehand. They're going to ask questions. They're going to refer to the ops, but they're going to take charge. And personally, I prefer that. Yep. Well, Daniel just had ABS over there, but you just had a new plant too. So we're going to have ABS over here because we're getting a new condenser. So I'm sure this is going to mean that we're going to get, well, we may get put under the microscope a bit, but we keep our ducks in a row. So I like to think that that helps our microscoping. So. So that's the IMS. It's another thing. So I just put that down as another topic because it's part of your it's an integrity management system. So it's part of the ERP in that you do the integrity management system to limit the chances of an emergency happening. Right? You're testing your brine to make sure that emergency doesn't happen. You're decommissioning equipment so properly, so you're making sure emergencies don't happen. You're the construction, same thing. So it's part of it. Okay, critical component for the emergency response. So like I said, emergency shut off, just a detail of the emergency shut off. Emergency dump valve, details about that. Surveillance system. If you have a surveillance system in your facility and you don't have cameras in your plant room, I recommend you do. And you have access to those cameras. Now, even if you don't, I recommend you have an emergency system because this can tell you a lot without having to enter that room. Right? You can look at that camera and you can say, I don't see anything because there's a big white cloud. And then you know no one's going in there for a very long time. Or oh, Tim was supposed to check the plant room and I don't know where he went. What happened? And you check the camera, then and you see Tim there, that's you're doing his job, he's fine, or whatever, then surveillance system inside the plant room is a real bonus for sure. Yeah, when we had all our cameras installed, we asked for one in there, and I would even say if you have a bigger plant room, put two. And if you don't have a surveillance system already, you can get surveillance systems on Amazon for a couple hundred, maybe at the most $500, and you can have a couple cameras set up into the internet, and you can be able to surveil your plant room from that way. So highly recommend. Alarm thresholds, response levels. So like I mentioned, the flow chart, it's all documented here. Detection levels, like I said, in the flow chart, it just lays it out more of a point form here instead of the flow chart. So I'm not going to go through this. It's the same information I went through already. Now the response types, shelter in place and evacuation. This is the key part because where is the ammonia going? Is the ammonia going to go into the building? I don't really think so. Chances are, unless you've got something wrong with your doors at your pre-entry room, or you don't have a pre-entry room, or you don't have doors at all, then it's probably evacuating the building. So it's leaving the building through the exhaust fans, especially if you turn them on. You turn on your exhaust fans, or maybe it's an automatic system. You depressurize the system with the emergency stop button, and it's going to go out the exhaust. Now it's going outside. So you probably want to shelter in place. You don't want to send everyone out to ammonia cloud. So having a shelter in place protocol is really key, and not only for ammonia situations, there's other ones too. Active shooter, bomb threat, situations like that. You want to have a shelter in place, tornado, other things like that, right? So, like I say, if the ammonia has not permeated the facility, shelter in place as the ammonia will be vented outside. right there. So you got to come up with a protocol for sheltering in place, whatever works best. Run through it with your staff a few times and see what you can do. So we just have bullhorns. Like I said, we've got a bullhorn in the pre-entry room, so we can go. A shelter in place advisory has been issued. All patrons, please move downstairs into the dressing rooms and await further instructions. Please do not leave the facility. So that pretty much nails it down. And then from there, you're going to lock the building so you don't have people coming into the building and then just being wherever they want, sort of thing, because you can't keep them under control. And then from there, you're going to be on the phone with 911 and talking to emergency services and hopefully to the incident commander from there. So evacuation procedure, that's that odd situation that you've now got ammonia in the building. Again, like I say, the only, unless you have ammonia under your floor, like or in your brine system because your chiller is compromised, there's not going to be a lot of situations where you've got ammonia in your building. Sorry, just to back up a bit, I didn't mention the makeup air units and RTU units, having them shut off when you're sheltering in place because you don't want to be blowing that ammonia from outside in through the exhaust, in through the makeup air systems into the building. So if you can have those tied in, if you have automation, you should do that. If not, you got to have a system where it says these are the breakers you need to or shut offs or switches or whatever it is. I think you need to be able to, or put people in a place where those systems aren't going to compromise the room that they're in. So if that's the ice shed, like where the arena is, then that's your best bet, because otherwise you're setting people up for a shelter in place where you're putting them into harm's way by bringing the ammonia back into the building. So, but if you tell people that you need an automation system or you need to spend money to tie those two systems together, then telling people that the reason is because of this ERP, then I think you've got enough justification there. So any questions about that shelter in place? No? Evacuation, I like to think it's pretty straightforward. If I need to evacuate the building, I'm pulling a pull station because that's also getting a 911's um, uh, information, right, attention. So you're gonna pull this pull station. That's gonna start all the systems up to get 911 on their way and get everyone out of the building. You'd like to think, right? And don't hold any punches as far as skates off or I need to get this out of my bag. You can, once you do a sweep and lock all the doors, you can do that. You can make sure that no one has gone into a room to go get something. Just get them out of the building, right? And then, like I said, the fire wardens have to check everywhere, uh, for do a sweep of the building and then get everyone out of there. Some places they want you to lock the doors, some places they want you to leave them open. Trying to remember what ours was. It doesn't actually say. So I thinking locking the building, locking the rooms that have been opened are key because we keep lots of doors locked anyways for first place. And when fire department comes, they're gonna get into where they want to go anyways. So, and then checking the windsocks. If you're evacuating the building so that um in this ammonia situation, you may want to continue to monitor windstocks. And just in case it's going out the back of the building through the exhaust system, you don't want to be downwind. Because even if it's not a potentially dangerous situation because it's exhausting through the atmosphere, one person catches a whiff, they're gonna freak out and they're gonna go running for their car or running for something. They're not going to want to be there anymore. So you want to stay away from downwind. And if that means you have to change muster points entirely, like you've got two muster points and both of them you're smelling ammonia, then you got to go to somewhere else, right? So I talk about isolation zone. It was 330 feet, 100 meters. So you've got your circle, just draw it out in Google Maps. You can do that. You can measure that out, or if you need to take a yard wheel, go ahead and do that. Um, Rescue and medical plan, that's all, you're not going in there to try to save someone. If someone's down, you're going to leave that to the fire department. But SDS sheets are going to have more information on that. But the first thing I think is keep yourself safe, right? You're not going to go in. We have a media plan. You don't want everyone talking to the media. There might be too much information, so you just button up and let the people talk to the media. These are our policies on that and who handles these situations. Now, the personal effects. Now, if you've evacuated the building, there's going to be stuff left in the building. You need to come up with a procedure on getting that stuff back to the people, whether it's the same day when it's allowed, or whether it's days after, or maybe both. Right. So you need to tag where that effect was. You need to have people in charge of that, whether it's staff coordinating with the team manager or team coach. You just can't come have everyone walking into the building. Yeah, I left 10 Bauer sticks and 5 sets of skates in the room and I need to come retrieve them. There needs to be a procedure in place for that. And that information, as far as contaminating, you need to let the people know that it may be contaminated. Now, as I said, like ammonia is a natural substance and it's gonna air out itself. But if you like dump liquid ammonia on something, then you may want to have to tell people that, yeah, that's garbage basically now, because it's been dumped with ammonia, but it's going to try and um, you got to at least let the people know of the risk. So, and you got to keep a record of all that. And then you got to come up with a reentry plan. Some of these are complex situations, so there might be people coming and kind of trying to come and go. So that plan needs to be laid out with who is coming when. Like if there's a team from out of town and there's going to be a manager driving up to come pick up their gear because they were displaced for a day or 24 hours or whatever it is, then you need to come up with a plan and document it and document it, right? Because you need to be able to say that, oh, well, this person came up. Oh, I don't know who it was. I didn't write it down. So you need to go through all that. Record keeping, reporting, investigation. Every ammonia level, every release up to a certain level, like I like to think around 2 parts per million. We said greater than 25 parts per million needs an investigation report done by the staff. And then also telling ABSA. ABSA needs to know whenever unsafe conditions or releases or anything has happened to your plant. We put the SDS as an appendix. I'm not going to go through that. Everyone should have a copy. And then we have reference library, occupational, right? These different pressure release or pressure safety equipment regulation, and then internal. So 1201, I skimmed through a lot of that last little bit. So, but I kept you here. Look at that. Does anyone have any questions as I went through that? While I ask that question, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Oh, I don't know how to do that. I'm going to put in the chat. There's my email. Oh, I direct messaged it. Can everyone read that?
No.
No. Yeah, just either send me an email or put your contact information here. Probably send me an email would be best if you want a copy of this. At outlook.com.
Put the contact information for the office in there as well. So if anybody needs to if you forget or you lose Adrian's email address or anything, just you can reach out. We'll get you in touch.
Well, I hope everyone found that informative. I know it's a lot of information and it can be a lot of work, but the off season is a good time to do it. I'm just gonna put my work one there also for whatever reason, sort of thing. But if you are interested, we're gonna probably do that IMS one next, as long as I'm confident in the document we've got. And I'd probably run it through a few people like ABSA or Peregrine. But also reach out to your suppliers. Reach out to your suppliers on what they have as far as a safety protocols, information they can give to you. There can be a wealth of knowledge, and they've had to go through a lot of this stuff recently. Well, over the last probably 10 years, 9 years, ever since Fernie, and they can give you a lot of information also. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Adrian. That was awesome. I've never worked in an arena in my life and I learned a lot. So I'm sure everybody else did as well. What an amazing resource you are. So thank you so much for hosting this for us. As we've said, and we'll continue to say, if you guys need anything at all, please reach out to Adrian or us here at the office, and we will get you in touch with all the right people to get you all the answers that you need to make sure your facilities are healthy and safe, and your users are safe, and your operators are safe and healthy. So yeah, does anybody else have anything they want to talk about before we all break and go for lunch? That was all well deserved on this beautiful day.
And if anyone has any ideas for me, for articles or posts or information or anything like that, I'm always welcome to it. I do this for you guys. I don't do this for me. I do it for the members RFP. So just let me know for sure if you got any good ideas. Any ideas, period.
There's no such thing as a bad idea.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. You've been amazing. Great questions and comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we will see you at the next one. In case you are looking for some additional training, not just for arenas, but anything else, this is my opportunity to plug Symposium, which is coming up in Okotoks at the end of July with the wonderful Daniel and his amazing team down there. We have 13 courses running through that course of the week. And we've got our Arena 1 and Arena Maintenance, as well as all of our pool building maintenance, parks and sport fields, ball diamond construction, kind of the whole thing, all of our leadership courses, everything. So registration is open. Some of our courses are just about full. So if you get on that now, it's going to be a great week with some really great activities and some networking opportunities as well. Dave, I'm not sure when this will be available, but
we'll email it to him. Okay. The link when it comes up. So if you put your email here in the chat or email me, I've put mine in the link or here in the chat. But where was Dave again?
Dave's in Minnesota. Dave's our international.
Oh, right. Nice. Yeah. Do we have contact information for him? Probably somewhere.
Yeah, Dave, if you can pop it in the chat, I think we can pull it off the registration as well. But we will track you down. Worst case, it'll be posted in our website, like in the member portal.
Yeah,
I believe where Helena puts them.
Yeah.
And she should have it up next week at the latest.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to stop recording. So we are currently